How's it going, everyone? I hope you are having a great week so far. I just came back from a photo shoot. It's the rainy season, so I took the chance to get some reflection shots. This location is my favorite. The scene can look quite different depending on the weather conditions. On sunny days, it's just a plain blue sky. But on overcast days or rainy days, the big puddle, it turns into a natural stage, allowing me to capture something really special. I'm excited to edit the photos with you today. In the next 20 minutes, we'll pick the best shots together. I'll show you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you'll get to know my camera settings, the tools I use in Lightroom, and the export settings. So grab yourself a cup of tea and get comfy. We are now in Lightroom Classic. I just import all the photos from the shoot. There are about 800 photos that I took in an hour. But don't worry, most of them are just burst shots of the subject moving around. So we'll pick only one or two from each sequence. The first step is to batch edit. In the Lightroom module, we can set the white balance and exposure to auto with just a few clicks. But I don't really like that method because it will automatically adjust the vibrance and saturation, which I don't want. So here's what I'm going to do. I will edit one photo first with basic adjustments, make it neutral, and apply sharpening and some noise reduction. Then I'll select all the photos and synchronize them so they all get the same treatment. You might wonder why the photos look so dark. I did it on purpose. I'll explain later in the video. Let's focus on the photos without people in them. Then we can move up to the more difficult ones. Now, if it's okay with you, I would like to jump into one of my favorite shots. The plan is to enhance the brightness and the details of the ground and do some color grading. The lens I use is a wide angle. If I zoom out all the way, you'll see the vignette because I put on a polarizing filter. Let's talk about the CPL. Its job is to block the reflective light from entering the lens, reducing glare. I use it in my last shoot and I'm curious to see if it made any difference, so I left it on. Is it gonna help or ruin my shots? We'll come back to that in a moment. One of my favorite tools is the effects section in the mask. It can help sharpen and bring out the details. I'll toggle the before and after to see how it looks. The gradient filter is flexible, so I can stretch it or squeeze it. I'm making it thinner so the effects is more concentrated on the highlights. Normally we will push the highlights down, but in this case, I prefer to do the opposite. Push the blacks down and increase the highlights to create contrast. Then I'll do some color grading. I want to make the light more orange and the sky a cooler blue. It's a complementary color palette that suits the blue hour. I'll create another version with a subdued color palette so we can compare them. Let's create a virtual copy. Right-click and reset the settings. We go to a color mixer and desaturate the blue. And that's it. The last step is upright. Draw guidelines along the lamppost and the horizon. Then it will straighten the image. Copy this upright setting to the previous version. Here's the side-by-side comparison. Which do you prefer? So this is how I set the look and feel. A roadmap of how to get to the end result that I envision. The next photo is taken from the same angle but before the blue hour. Look at the reflection, it's seamless. Since the sky is the main focus this time, so we try to bring out the details and make it more dramatic. How about we crop tighter, focus more on the right side? I'll take this time to explain why I underexpose the shots on purpose. Whenever there's a bright sky or a light source like the lamppost, I want to make sure to keep the details in the highlights. So 2 stops of underexposure works for me, because I can always brighten the shadows later if I want to. Now, it's street photography. I can't really do exposure bracketing like landscape shots. And most of the time I don't need to see the faces of the subject anyway, since they will be silhouettes. Okay, back to the edit. I'll add another radial gradient mask to the sky. It's still too bright. It doesn't look dramatic at all. So I'll decrease the exposure by increasing the whites. That should enhance the contrast. So the lamppost is the brightest part. I usually use the dehaze tool to bring out the details in the clouds. Let me check if it's nice and smooth, since the haze can sometimes cause noise. Looks good to me. Let's check the lens correction before straightening the image. Draw guidelines along the horizon and the lamppost. I'll flag it and rate it 5 stars, so I know it's edited and ready to be exported. I'll synchronize these settings with other photos that with similar composition. Select the one we just added, hold shift and select the last one, then hit sync. I want to make one color version and one in black and white, then we'll see which one looks better. I'll adjust the brightness of a specific color in the color mixer to bring out the details. And since it's black and white, I don't mind if it's a bit grittier and has higher contrast, so I'll increase the clarity. I like that I can see the texture beneath the surface and some reflection of the sky. It's the best of both worlds. I think we have a good template now. Let's move on to the photos with people. I'm going to edit this one in black and white. This young lady stood there looking at the ocean. Because from this angle we cannot see the lamppost, monochrome suits it well. I've copied and pasted the masks from the last photo, so let's fine-tune them. For the ground, I like to use a radial gradient mask instead, and I want it to match the light source, which is mainly in the middle. Here's how I do it. I'll drag the new radial gradient mask into this layer and turn off the linear gradient mask from the last edit. All the settings are still there. And let's make some adjustments. I'll bring up the highlights and shadows a little bit. The subject looks a little bit too dark though. If I let the AI detect the subject and make the selection, that happens sometimes. I prefer to do it manually with the object mask. It's more precise. In the transform tool, I'll hit update. Then in the crop tool, press the shortcut key O to bring up the different guidelines options to crop it and make the lady slightly off center. To be honest, the composition is a bit boring. If I take one step back and include that curvy line, it looks much more interesting. The reflection is clearer as well. Never settle for just one angle. Keep moving and adjusting to give yourself more variety to choose from. Wow, this shot has a real doomsday vibe to it. Now my camera angle is pointed more to the left, matching the lady's eye line, so we can see what she's looking at from this perspective. After synchronizing, I can see the mask is off. That's okay, we'll make a new one and turn off the old one. For the sky, we'll make it a little bit lighter. You see me toggling things on and off a lot. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a better way to edit it. Because the lights and clouds are constantly changing. The apocalypse looks cool, but am I doing the photo justice? That's the question. One good practice is to zoom in and double check the edges. See how messy that is. Time to clean that up. I'll click on the mask, hit subtract, select the brush, and gently paint over the outline. That's looking better. And for the ground, the mask needs to be darker and smaller. And then I changed my mind. For the sky, instead of using the haze, I'll just push the blacks down to create more contrast. I noticed there is something unnatural in the mask. When I move it, you'll see what I mean. It's the feathering. Maybe I can move the edge out of the frame. That's better. Oh, I almost forgot. I can use the curve tool to add contrast inside the mask. Just a quick S-curve. There we go. That works better than the sliders. Next up is the first shot of the day. It's an ultra-wide angle from eye level that shows the whole scene. When I saw this gentleman walking along the edges, I quickly grabbed my camera. You can see the curvy line marked on the ground. I try to make it work for every angle. It's such a great element. First, I create a virtual copy for the black and white edit so I can keep the color version as a backup. Copy and paste from the last photo. Now I go to the mask panel and fine-tune it. Let me see what happens if I move the radial filter to the middle. I think it would be nice to match the reflection of the sky, like the mirror, so I'll make the oval shape narrower. For overall exposure, let's increase the whites a little bit. The sky is much brighter in this one because it was taken earlier in the day. Let's fine-tune the exposure and we can see the beautiful texture in the clouds. Compared to putting the mask in the middle, this edit creates a sense of the sky is falling and there's weight on the subject's shoulder. The brighter bits are always eye-catching and the focal point is in his reflection. It feels more like his sandwich. The second version is less dramatic. You can see the unimportant elements, like the sea, they are way too bright. As the subject continues walking, his reflection is diminishing. In this one, you can't see his full body, so the shots beyond this point, I'll ditch them. I think this corner is interesting. It points to the subject, which is great. I'll pick this one and fine-tune the mask. Alright, that's it for this one. This subject is quite interesting. I caught her with her arms open to the sky. It looks like the subject is summoning the power of nature. I think the edit on this one is pretty straightforward. Every now and then, I like to step back, take a break, and question where I'm over-editing. Just because I create a certain style doesn't mean I have to apply it to every single photo. So I've made two versions. What do you think? Leave a comment below. The last shot was a little bit dry. I want to get more of the reflective surface, so I moved closer to the puddle. I remember seeing a couple at some point, and here they are. Now this one is obviously off level. I apologize for that. The reason I pick it is because of their position. They were standing there for a while, and this is the moment where they're both facing the same direction. It looks hopeful. They're not overlapping, which makes good silhouettes. The placement of the subject is what matters the most to me. That curvy line is stealing the show again. Remember the first shot we added? The blue out one. Let's try to copy that setting. Nope, it doesn't work. Let's stick with this one then. I don't mind the majority of the frame getting darker, so they can be silhouettes. No need to add a mask on them. The focal point is in the middle. You might think silhouettes can only be captured on sunny days. This is a perfect example of how you can do it on an overcast day too. The silhouette effect is great because it hides a lot of things. Do you see a trash can in the frame? Nope, it's too dark. It just lost in the shadows. For me, the biggest game changer is that lamppost. This is the first time I stayed that late. Photographers are like moths, we're attracted to the light. That's why blue hours are so special. Inside the mask, I'll apply the haze as usual to add some contrast, but this time I'll add noise reduction to counterbalance that. Do you see the difference? It's really subtle, but never mind. I'll show you another noise reduction tool in the next one. With this wide-angle lens, there's always some distortion on the edges, so every time I'll go back to the upright tool to straighten the lines. I'll crop the frame at the point where the line extends from the corner. The next step, I use the brush tool to make it pop. Alright, that's it for this one. Remember the behind the scenes I showed you at the beginning? My camera was almost touching the ground. That's how I found the reflection of the light that looked like a splash. I was blown away. I moved back and forth, left and right, trying to find the angle that shows the most bokeh in the foreground. Since I'm using a wide-angle lens, the bokeh won't be too big, but still creating a beautiful effect. It all came from this rugged surface. As I'm mesmerized by this effect, I'm also keeping an eye out for people walking through the scene. Is that a bird? So this guy in a white shirt is our main subject, and that's another guy sitting there for a long time. And now a lady chimed in. Oops, this is out of focus. Delete. Now the guy has sat down. I picked 2 shots to work on. The purpose of this edit is to highlight the details in the clouds, brighten the bottom half so we can see the reflection better. Whenever we adjust the exposure, pay attention to the histogram. It shows the distribution of the tonal range. Overall, we just want to brighten the shadows, keeping the image moody. The composition is significantly improved because of the cropping. The curvy line is like a snake swimming towards the ocean. The black tones works perfectly. We saved the best for last. With the line traveling from right to left, this time to the lamppost. A widescreen 16:9 makes more sense. I'd rather see more of the ground than the sky. So this time the proportion is no longer 50-50. The last step is the noise reduction. Let me pull up the denoise window so you can see how much noise is in the image. I'll increase the amount little by little to find the right balance. There is another option called raw details, but that doesn't work for this shot. I'll make a separate video to explain this feature. For now, I'll keep the amount at 38. It will generate a new DNG file with the edits applied. And here's the result, nice and smooth. At this point, I was about to step away. And then I saw this bench and the lights. Oh, and someone just walked into the frame. Right on cue. Real doomsday. I will not repeat the steps with you again. You know the drill. Alright, that's pretty much all the shots I have. Let's export the photos. I'll turn on this little switch. All the marked photos are here. Select them all and hit export. Many of you ask about the export settings. Since I'm too lazy to make multiple versions for social media, I optimize the quality for general use on computer screen. I set the resolution to 5 megapixels, 150 ppi. The file size should be around 3 to 5 megabytes. This is small enough for sharing and looks great on social media. The system I use to name my files is based on year, date, and keeping the original file number. This way, if I need to find the original raw file, I can trace back to the file number. Many of you are curious about the exposure settings. I've listed them on the screen. I use manual mode for exposure. The process is fairly simple. Let me explain. The aperture is fixed at f4 because that is the largest opening of my lens. I constantly check the histogram and mirroring to see if I need to adjust anything before every shot. So if the subject is moving, I'll use 200 to prevent motion blur. Now, my hands are quite steady, but the slowest shutter speed I'll use is around 50 to 80. When it gets darker, I'll increase the ISO to compensate. As you can see, it's changing from 200 to 640. That's how I use manual mode. I hope this is helpful. If you got this far, you're a legend. I really appreciate you being here. Would you like to see more videos like this? I actually went back the other day with a telephoto lens and captured some of my favorite photos of the year. No kidding. Hit the subscribe button and join me for the next section.